The screams under glass. Kylie didn't know how long she had been in the cell. The floor below her was full of metal spears, thin, sharp, and cold. Every time she moved, they cut into her skin. She couldn't sit. She couldn't lie down. She could only stand or kneel. Always in pain. The walls were glass. Thick and clear. Beyond the glass, humans walked by, staring like she was a creature in a cage. Some pointed, some laughed. No one helped. She had done nothing wrong. Her planet had been attacked by humans. She had been taken during the raid. No one asked her name. No one told her why. They threw her into this cell and left her to bleed. The lights never turned off. The pain never stopped. But one human was different. He didn't speak. He didn't laugh. He came every day and stood in front of her cell, just watching. He had short brown hair and tired eyes. His uniform was the same as the others, but something in his face felt sad. Callie hated him at first, just like the others, but he never hurt her. He never smiled either. He just watched. One day she fell. Her legs gave out and she dropped to her knees. The spears stabbed deep. She screamed. The human flinched. For the first time, he stepped closer to the glass. His hand touched it gently, as if he could feel her pain through it. Callie stared at him through the tears and whispered in her own language, "Why do you watch me suffer?" To her shock, the human replied in her tongue, "Because I can't stop it." Callie froze. No human had ever spoken her language. Not like this, not fluently, not with feeling. You understand me?" She asked. "Yes," he said. "I was trained to, before the war." She looked at him with new eyes. "Then why am I here?" "I don't know," he said. "I wasn't supposed to see this." He looked around and leaned closer. "I was told your people were dangerous, but this is wrong." Cully wanted to believe him. But how could she trust another human? They destroyed her home. They burned her forests. They put her in this box still. Something in his voice felt real. That night he returned. He slipped something through a slot at the bottom of the glass. A small pack of clean water and a piece of soft bread. Kaylee stared at it, not sure if it was a trick. But hunger won. She took it, her hands shaking. It was the first kindness in weeks. The next day, she spoke again. "My name is Kali," the human nodded. "I'm Reed." From then on they talked, just a little. Always quietly. He told her about Earth, about the lies soldiers were told. He said her people were labeled as enemies to justify the war. Kaylee told him about her home, about the lakes that glowed under two moons, about the singing trees, about her mother. One night, the glass lit up red. A warning. An alarm rang in the hallway outside. Reed rushed in, his face pale. "They're moving you to Section 9, he said. "No one comes back from there." Kaylee's heart raced. "Why?" "What did I do?" "Nothing," he said. "That's the problem." She didn't understand. He looked at her, his jaw tight. "I'm getting you out." Kylie stared at him, unsure if she heard him right. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a stolen keycard. "Tomorrow night, during the shift change. Be ready." She nodded slowly, pain and hope mixing in her chest. Hope was dangerous, but this human, he was different. As Reed walked away, she whispered, "Why are you helping me?" He paused, turned back and said, "Because you don't belong on that floor." And then he was gone, leaving Kylie alone in the glass cell, heart racing for the first time. Not from fear, but from a spark, a chance, a way out. Asterisk, the silent human. The lights flickered. But Kaylee didn't blink. She hadn't slept. Not because she wasn't tired, but because tonight, she was waiting for a human, not for fear, not for torture, but for something impossible. Freedom. For hours, nothing happened. Just the cold glass, the sharp spears, and the endless silence. The cell smelled like blood and metal. Her legs ached. Her skin was raw. But her eyes stayed fixed on the hallway. Then, just past midnight, he came. Reed. No uniform this time. Just dark clothes, gloves, and a tool bag. He walked fast, head low, like a shadow slipping through a crack. Kalia's heart thudded in her chest. She rose slowly, careful not to shift her weight on the spikes. Reed reached the panel by the glass. He tapped in a code wrong. He cursed under his breath. Tried again, click. The door opened. Cold air hit her face. The cell door hadn't opened since the day she was thrown in. Kaylee looked at Reed, unsure. He stepped inside. Careful not to touch the spears. He held out a pair of old boots with thick soles. "For your feet," he whispered. She slipped them on, pain flaring with every move. Reed helped her up gently. His hands were rough, but careful, together. They stepped out of the cell. The hallway was empty. The cameras disabled Reed had looped the feed. Still, they moved fast. "This place is built like a maze," Reed said. "We need to reach the lower deck." Kali followed. Limping slightly, every step felt like fire. But she didn't stop. As they turned a corner, she saw something strange, rows of cells. Like hers, filled with others, other aliens, different shapes. Sizes, colors, all bruised, bloody, silent. Kali froze. She reached for the glass of one cell. A young creature with glowing eyes stared back at her. "I didn't know," she whispered. Reed looked away. "They keep them here for testing, not for justice." Kali turned to him. Eyes burning. "Then we're not escaping," she said. "We're rescuing." Reed hesitated. "We can't save them all," he said. "Not tonight." "Then we save one more," she said. "Or I go back." He stared at her, then nodded. "One," he said. "But quick." They opened a nearby cell, helped a small alien child out. The child clung to Kali like she was family. They moved again, fast, sirens still silent. But time running short. Ahead, a door. Reed pulled out the stolen card and scanned it. "Nothing. Red light," he swore. "It's locked with biometrics. Can we break it?" Kaylee asked. "No," Reed said. "But I have an idea." They turned back, ran into a side room. Inside, a guard half asleep, drinking coffee. Reed knocked him out in one move, pressed his hand against a scanner. Door unlocked. They rushed through tunnels. Down a maintenance shaft, finally. They reached a service dock. One ship sat in the dark small. "Fast, old. Can you fly it?" Kaylee asked. "I can try," Reed said. He helped her and the child inside. Started flipping switches. Then red lights, loud alarms. "They found us," Reed said. The ship roared to life. But the doors ahead were still closed. Kaylee moved to the console, placed her hand on it. Her skin glowed faintly. Alien tech inside the ship responded. "Stand back," she said. The engine screamed. The doors opened just in time. They launched. Shooting into the black sky, relief hit Kali like a wave. They had escaped, but it lasted only seconds. Because just ahead, a massive ship appeared, blocking their path. An Earth military cruiser. Its voice crackled over the radio, cold and sharp. "Unidentified vessel. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded." Reed looked at Kaylee. Kaylee looked at the child. No one spoke, because freedom had just become a war. The escape plan, the stars disappeared, not because they blinked out, but because something massive had blocked them. Kylie stared through the shuttle's window. Her breath caught in her throat. The Earth warship loomed ahead like a giant wall in space. Metal skin, long cannons, glowing blue engines, deadly and silent. It was 10 times the size of their shuttle. And it was fully awake. Reed slammed a button, shutting off their signal. "We're not answering that," he said. Kaylee looked at him, eyes wide. "Then what are we doing?" He stared at the cruiser, then back at her. "We're running." He spun the controls hard. The shuttle dove down. Engines roaring. The child screamed. Kylie held on tight. A burst of light shot past the window, a warning shot. Then another, closer this time. "They're serious," Kylie said. "They always are," Reed replied. Another blast rocked the shuttle. Sparks flew. Kaylee saw a red light blinking on the panel engine damage. "We won't outrun them," she said. "No," Reed agreed. "But we can hide." He pulled them into the shadow of a moon. Then down into a debris field, old wrecks, broken satellites, floating junk from ancient wars. "We stay here," Reed said. "They won't follow us into this mess. Won't they scan it?" Kylie asked. "They will," he said. "That's why we need to vanish first." Reed shut down the main power. Everything went dark. Only the hum of life support remained. Inside the silence, Kali felt the tension grow. The child sat quietly, staring at the stars. Reed checked the controls again. If they get a lock on us, it's over, he said. Kali turned to him. You had a plan, she said. An escape plan. I did, he nodded. This isn't part of it, she smiled slightly. At least you're honest. Then something beeped. A green light. A signal someone nearby. Another ship? Kaylee asked. No, Reed said, frowning. A signal from the prison. He tapped the console, and a voice came through, low and broken. Reed, if you're hearing this, it's bad. They're coming for her. For you too. Burn it all. It was a voice Reed knew, his old commander, dead, or at least dying. Kali's blood ran cold. What does it mean? She asked. It means we're not fugitives anymore, Reed said. We're loose ends. They couldn't stay hidden. They had to move. Reed restarted the engines carefully. Kylie stood beside him, holding the child. What now? She asked. We go underground, Reed said. Somewhere Earth can't reach. Kylie nodded slowly. I know a place, she said. A relay station abandoned. Orbiting a dead world. He looked at her, surprised. You sure? No, she said. But it's better than here. Reed turned the ship toward the dark side of the system. The old stars were behind them now. Ahead, silence, ice, and shadows. As the shuttle moved forward, Kelly looked back one last time. Toward the warship, toward Earth. Toward everything that had tried to break her, and she whispered, We're not running. We're rewriting everything. Fire in the halls. The smell hit them before the sound. Smoke, burning metal, scorched wires, then boom. The shuttle shook hard, throwing Kali against the wall. The child screamed, holding her side. Reed's voice cut through the chaos. Brace yourselves. Another explosion rocked the ship. This time closer. Red lights flashed across every panel. One word kept repeating on screen. Breach. They found us. Kaylee shouted. No, Reed said, gripping the controls. Someone planted a bomb on board. Kali's eyes narrowed. Then they knew we'd run. Reed didn't answer. His focus was locked on keeping the ship together. But she saw at the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Was it a tracker? A traitor? Or something worse? The shuttle was dying, and fast. Reed slammed the emergency steering into manual. We can't land, we crash, he said. Pick a spot, Kali replied. Somewhere dead. They aimed for a small, lifeless moon. No air, no buildings, just rock and dust. Better than exploding in space. The ship slammed into the surface like a burning hammer. Metal scraped. Sparks flew. And finally silence, broken, but alive. Kali crawled out of the wreckage. Lungs aching, Reed followed, limping, carrying the child. They were alive, but they were stranded, and someone had tried to kill them. Hours passed as they took shelter in a crater. Reed patched the child's injuries, while Kylie checked the wreck. The fire had eaten most of the systems. No signal out, no tools left. But inside the mess, Kaylee found something strange. A small black box melted on one side. She scanned it. It wasn't part of their shuttle. It was military issue, a tracker, a bomb, both. She stormed back to Reed, holding it up. This was inside, she said. His face went pale. I didn't put that there, he said. But it's from Earth, she replied. And you're from Earth. The silence between them stretched. Tight as a wire, thin as trust. I saved you, Reed said. Or you led me into a trap, Kylie snapped back. The child looked at them both, confused and scared. I didn't know, Reed said again. But I swear I'll find out who did. Kylie turned away, her hands shaking, not from fear, from betrayal. Later that night, a sound woke her low. Metallic, moving. She rose slowly, stepped outside the crater. A figure stood in the distance, glowing faintly under the starlight. Not human, not one of hers, something else. It turned and ran. Fast and silent. Kali chased it without thinking. Across sharp rocks and deep shadows. She caught it at the edge of a ridge, grabbed its arm. It spun, knocking her down, but she held on. A face came into view, half machine, half skin, an old tech species. Extinct in most systems, but alive here, hiding. Why did you plant the device? Kylie demanded. The cyborg hissed. I didn't, it said. I followed the signal. What signal? She asked. The thing pointed toward the stars. They're coming, it said, and they're not from Earth. Kylie's blood turned cold. Not Earth, not hers, something worse. She looked back toward the crash site, toward Reed, toward the child. If the signal wasn't Earth's, then who had sent it? And why now? Something had just changed. This wasn't just a prison break. This was bigger, older, and maybe not about war at all. As Kylie stood on the edge of the ridge, wind slicing across her face, she realized something she hadn't felt since her world fell. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Trial of two worlds. The witness had no mouth, no skin, no heartbeat. It floated in the courtroom like a shadow wrapped in smoke. A machine soul, older than Earth, older than war. Its voice echoed in every ear without speaking. I saw the girl suffer, it said. You called her an enemy, but she was alone, unarmed, and kind. The humans in the room shifted uncomfortably. Not because it was lying, but because it wasn't. 3 days earlier, Reed's hands were still burned. Kaylee still limped, and the child hadn't spoken since the crash. They had been picked up by a neutral ship, one of the last in the system, a refugee vessel with no flag. Its crew was mixed, half human, half not. And they weren't asking for sides, only stories, now. Kylie stood inside a military battleship, surrounded by humans, watched by cameras, judged by silence. She wasn't in a cell, but it felt like one. Reed sat beside her, his face hard, his uniform stripped. He was no longer a soldier, he was a problem. The trial wasn't for justice, it was for control. The leaders didn't want truth, they wanted silence. But they didn't expect the witness. The cyborg Kaylee had met on the dead moon. It had followed them, connected its mind to the court's network, and told everyone what it saw, every wound, every scream, every step on that spear-covered floor. The room went cold. A general stood, red-faced. She was part of an enemy species, he shouted. The machine turned to him. Your data says otherwise, it said. Her people never fired the first shot. Silence. Cully looked at Reed. He gave a small nod. It was her turn to speak. She stood slowly, her voice quiet but clear. You destroyed my city, she said. You burned my forests, took our children. I never had a weapon. I never asked for war. The judges watched. Unreadable, one of them leaned forward. And yet, here you are. Kali stepped closer. Because one human broke the rules, she said. One human saved me. That's the story no one wants to hear. Reed stood too. She was tortured by people wearing the same uniform I did, he said. I believed the lies, but once I saw the truth, I couldn't unsee it. The room held its breath. Outside, thousands were watching the trial stream. On Earth, on alien worlds, in colonies far from war. A storm was building, not of guns, but of truth. Suddenly, the broadcast was cut screen black. Gasps in the courtroom. One of the guards shouted, We've lost feed control. Kali turned to the judge. You didn't want the galaxy to hear this, she said. Now they will, because the cyborg had done more than speak. It had recorded everything and sent it out. Every prison, every scream, every death. All of it, now public. Kaylee was no longer just one girl. She was a mirror. And humanity didn't like what it saw. The judge stood slowly, hands shaking. If what we heard is true, he said, then Earth does not just owe an apology. We owe justice. But justice comes with enemies. And someone in the shadows was already moving, watching, planning, preparing to strike. Asterisk truth spreads like fire. It started with a single screen. A bar in New Chicago, muted news feed, bored bartender. No one watching. Then the video changed. The glass cell, the blood, the spears, a girl crying. A human standing silent. Someone turned the sound up by morning. It wasn't just on one screen. It was everywhere. Kaylee's face lit up billboards in Tokyo. Her scream echoed through cafes in Paris. The footage played on military bases. On school projectors, on mining rigs in the asteroid belt. People stopped, watched, and asked the same thing, why? On Earth, the government scrambled, press offices shut down. Spokesmen vanished, firewalls went up, but it was too late. Reed's voice had cut through everything. I believed the lies, until I saw the truth. The system that started the war was now exposed. Not just corrupt, calculated. They hadn't feared aliens. They needed them to stay in power, to keep the public afraid, to sell weapons to stay rich. Now that lie was burning. Protests erupted in cities across Earth. Students, veterans, scientists, even former officers, holding signs, chanting Kaylee's name. She was a prisoner, not a threat. Stop the war. Start the truth. One human saved her. How many looked away? But while the people shouted, others prepared to strike. The Earth Council met in secret underground. 7 men and women who once ruled with silence. She must be silenced, one said. She's just a symbol, said another. No, the first replied. She's a spark, and sparks light fires. Up in orbit, Kali stood in the hangar of a hidden station. She watched the protests through a dusty screen. Do you think it matters? She asked. Reed stood behind her, arms crossed. I think the ones trying to kill you think it does, he said. The child slept nearby, curled up in a blanket, safe for now. Kaylee turned back to Reed. They're not done coming for us, she said. No, he agreed. Which is why we stopped running. They walked into the heart of the station, an old Comscore from before the war. Abandoned, forgotten, but powerful. Kaylee placed her hand on the console. Alien code flowed like light through the wires. This can broadcast across systems, she said, unfiltered, unstoppable. You're going to speak again? Reed asked. She shook her head. No, we both are. Just then, boom, a deep blast shook the floor. Alarms blared, lights flashed red. They found us, Reed said. Another blast closer. They rushed to the main deck. Through the window they saw it, an attack ship, not military, not Earth. Something black, sleek, silent, with no flag, no signal. It's not them, Kali said. Then who? Reed asked. A voice cracked over the station speakers. Deep and cold. You should have stayed silent. Then a second explosion tore through the wall. Flames rose, debris flew. Kylie shielded the child. Reed grabbed her arm. Get to the core, he shouted. You have one shot to tell the galaxy. They ran through the fire. Through falling steel and smoke, behind them, the station burned. And somewhere deep in the shadows of space, another signal woke up, older than Earth, colder than war. Now watching Kaylee, now listening. Because the truth hadn't just started a rebellion, it had awakened something far worse. The choice, the fire was gone. The screaming had stopped, only silence remained. Ash floated through the halls like slow snow. Wires dangled from the ceiling, screens cracked, walls blackened. Floors shaking under every step. Kali stood at the heart of the ruined station. Blood on her hands, smoke in her lungs. But her eyes clear. The child was safe. Hidden below, Reed was gone, missing after the last explosion. She didn't know if he was alive, only that he had bought her time. And now this was all that was left. The Comscore still glowed, barely alive, flickering. Waiting for her, Kali stepped toward it, limping, breathing hard. Every part of her ached. Not from wounds, from weight. The weight of every scream, every lie. Every life stolen by silence. She placed her hand on the console. The lights responded. Alien code, ancient code. Something older than Earth. Something listening. The broadcast was live. Unfiltered, global, galactic. She could say anything. Or nothing. She could disappear. And no one would ever blame her. Below the ruined station, deep in Earth's command room, generals watched the signal spike. She's going to speak, one said. Cut the feed, another snapped. We can't, the tech replied. She's off-grid Puraline relay. Then we strike her down. Fighters launched, weapons armed, satellites turned. Kaylee had seconds, maybe less. She leaned in and spoke, not loud, not angry, just clear. I was never your enemy. I was just easier to blame. But I forgive you. The The signal blasted across systems, into homes, into fleets, into schools and bunkers. No filter, no twist. Just truth. I forgive you, but I won't be silent. Not anymore. And then, another voice joined hers, cracked. Rough, human. Neither will I. Reed. Burned, bleeding, but standing. He had crawled back through fire. He stood beside her now. One voice became two. We speak for everyone who couldn't. We speak for the ones lost. And we're not going away. The blast never came. The weapons locked on her powered down. Earth hesitated. The generals looked at the screens and saw what they feared most. Not war, not rebellion, hope. Kaylee's voice had started something they couldn't kill, because it had already spread, in hearts, in memory. Months later, on a new world, green and strange, Kylie stood beneath a sky with no ships. Reed sat nearby, fixing a water unit. The child ran through fields of silver grass, laughing. They weren't fugitives anymore. They were firsts, the first to run toward peace instead of away from war. Kaylee turned to Reed. What now? She asked. He smiled, tired but free. Now we live. She looked at the stars, at everything waiting, and whispered, we weren't enemies. We were always meant to save each other.